Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to IBSI's weekly forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I'm your host, Joshua Washington with the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. In a few moments, I will be joined by my lovely co-host, Chief Speaker, the Chief of our Speakers Bureau, and our board member, Olga Mishwe Washington. We have a few things that we want to talk to you about today. If you are on, we are on all streaming platforms today. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. So tag your friends, tag your neighbors, tell them to come out and listen. We got a few things that we're going to cover today. The first thing I want to address, though, before we get into everything, first of all, that song you heard was called The First 7 Miles. That's our theme song. The First 7 Miles by Randy Sandoli. He's a jazz pianist, composer, and he composed that theme song. If you want to hear the rest of his music, you can find him on all streaming platforms. The album is called Simcha, and it's everywhere. So you can check that out. It's beautiful music. Also, visit. You can check him out there. Um, you can also for IBSI, you can visit our website at ibsi.org. We are also on Substack. We have articles coming out on the regular as well as podcasts. I am coming to you live from actually near Philadelphia today. One of the main reasons is that I'm doing a couple of our podcast interviews out here. And so I'm excited about that and to share those things with you. I was with Dr. Brandy Shufutinsky earlier today talking about the education system. I'll be with another dear friend of ours after that. So I'm excited about that as well. You can go to our Substack, become a subscriber. You can become a paid subscriber. A lot of our podcast episodes will be for paid subscribers only. So if you are not a paid subscriber, then you won't be able to check out many of our episodes. So please, ibsi.substack.com. Also, you can become a legacy builder if you give to IBSI. If you are a donor and you've given once or twice before, or if you haven't yet, I would ask you to consider becoming a legacy builder, which is a regular monthly giver. I always encourage people to give at least $18 a month to commit to that. And that monthly donation helps us to continue the work that we are doing. Also, this month, it's February the 19th. We are at the end of the 19th day of our 100K in 29 days campaign. We have raised, I think as of today, we're over $26,000. So we're just over a quarter of the way there. We still have a ways to go. So if you have not yet, go to our website. It's right there on the face of our page, and you'll see our 100K in 29 days, ladies and gentlemen. If you can continue to help IBSI, that would be incredible. We had an amazing time. As a matter of fact, just to talk about a little bit of our impact because of our gracious donors, our bigger donors, and our monthly donors, and all those things. We had an amazing time 2 nights ago now. We were in Harlem. It was our CEO and founder's birthday. We had an event there at TSion Cafe, which is owned by one of our good friends and partners, BJ Bahraini. If you see the picture there, we had a beautiful time. It's a beautiful Ethiopian restaurant. And we came across them a while ago. Love the space, always have a good time there. I've done music there, and we had a speaking engagement where our CEO had a chance to speak and talk about standing up for truth, regardless to who's doing it, who's not doing it, regardless to whether it people will accept it or not, and it's very powerful. But at that event, one of the things that happened there was it was packed, as you saw in the other picture. We had a mixed crowd, right? We had Jews, we had non-Jews, we had people from different backgrounds, we had people who traveled pretty far to be there, and me specifically, but my parents as well. We got to hear from the people who showed up to the event, and I got to talk to a few people who Black Americans live in New York, not Jewish, but have been searching for something else other than what they've been given. And we heard it a few times that night. I just discovered you guys a few months ago, and it was amazing. And I've been loving what you've been posting, and it's been teaching me a lot. And I wanted to come out to this event so I can, uh, ex- you know, participate, but also so I can meet you. And so we have for some of those people, actually, we'll be able to hear from them soon. I'm asking a couple of them to be on a podcast because of their journeys, what they've been through. But it was really amazing to see how IBSI has been a part of their journey, to digging to the truth, right? And it's a beautiful thing. We can measure our success by the things that we do that we know are right in front of us. For instance, our IBSI ambassadors, those who we've been with since last year, through a whole year of education and two trips, one trip to South Africa, one trip to Israel. And now we're working on the community engagement part with each of them. And whenever we travel and across the country, wherever we are, if we're near one of our ambassadors, we always take time out, and have one of our regular meetings with them in person instead of over Zoom. And it's a beautiful thing. And those things we can see, right? We're helping them with their events. We're helping them connect to different people in their communities, and we're giving them the resources that they need. However, there are measures of success that you don't always see in front of you. And sometimes you never see it, and sometimes you just don't see it for a long, long time. And so the, 2 nights ago in Harlem, was a reminder for us, for me personally, that is always going to be the case. There are people, for every one person who messages you and says, "Hey, I just want to let you know what you've been doing is really inspiring and it's helping me to move forward." There's got to be there's several people who think that, who just read what you post and internalize it and move on, right? And so you're still helping them. And so we got to meet some of those people, and I suspect we'll be meeting a lot more of them, because one of the things that happened, ladies and gentlemen, after October 7th is, the world seemed to have gotten crazier, but there are also a lot of people who just are looking at the craziness and going, "What is going on?" I met with there was a young lady who came to our event, and she shared with me that, she she was brought up to believe some of these things, right, about Israel. She's brought up to believe that Israel was a settler colonial project, and she's brought up to believe all this stuff. And we were talking, and she has been on a years long journey, kind of coming out of that, and really understanding what Israel actually is, and how it's not only is it not colonials, but it's anti-colonials, right? And she began to do that, and she said in her journey she discovered IPSI, which then helped to deepen her own research and her own understanding. That's not something that we can, I couldn't have told you that just a week ago because we didn't know her. But this whole time, or these past few months, the stuff that IPSI has been putting out, our live forums, things we've been posting, has been helping her. And that's been the case. And I suspect that with these events that we have coming up this year, we have the next one we have coming up is in Chicago, with Voices. It's an event called Voices for Israel with our good friend Peggy Shapiro. We're going to see more and more of that. Um, so I want to encourage you. Social media is social media. You have everything from trolls to paid trolls, right? To people who are actually paid to get on there and stir stuff up. It's not real life, right? And on the ground, just like, and we'll talk about this when Olga comes on too. On the ground, whether we're talking about South Africa or talking about here, on the ground, you have a lot of sane people. It's just that when you're sane, you're probably less likely to do things that insane people would do, um, like disrupt things and call a lot of attention to yourself and all that stuff, right? That's so it seems sometimes like the whole world is going crazy, but what we're finding on the ground, and what we've already known, and what's just been confirming for us, is that there are a lot of people who are taking in what we're saying, and it's actually equipping them, and empowering them. And so it also makes me excited for our next round of ambassadors, because I believe that as we continue to grow, we'll have even a larger number, and things will, people will be able to see that more and more. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of our impact. We've been on the road a lot, so please go to ibsi.org/dates. and you'll be able to see the events that we have coming up over these next few months. And we're adding more and more as we speak. So we want to see you. We want you to come see us. We want to engage with you and have a good time together. All right. So let's talk about this. I want to get a little bit deeper into to Harlem because like we said, it was an awesome event. And it was our CEO and founder's 57th birthday. And we decided that, our CEO and founder, he's also happens to be my father as well. He, as far back as I can remember, he has forgotten his birthday more than he's remembered. He's a very hardworking man, and he often just really, when it comes, he's like, oh, it is the 17th, huh? It is my birthday. And so we decided, well, why don't we do something that that you love to do, which is teach and speak, and let's put an event together. So we did that, and it was fantastic. I one of the things that, and I see Olga's here, so let's go ahead and bring her on too, because we're talking about this here today. Hello, Olga.
Good evening. Hello, everybody.
How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm good.
Good.
Got the boys down, so we're ready to rock and roll.
Good. Um, we were just talking about our CEO and founder, Pastor Dumisani Washington. It was his birthday.
Yay.
Legacy that he has been leaving and leading, and how we were able to kind of get a glimpse of that the other night in Harlem. And I want to talk about it both in context of both of our fathers, because um, you and I have been talking about this just off and on, but they're like people who are just really purely about the work. Um, Whatever their mission is, it's not a branding thing for them. It's not a marketing thing for them. It's not a how do I get more followers or how do I get more likes. Um, it is, and sometimes it's to a fault. Sometimes it's like, okay, but Dad, if you did this here, then this could happen. But it's refreshing to be having those conversations, because that that's not why they do what they do. And so whatever serves the mission, whatever serves their purpose, that's what they do. And so just reflecting on our CEO, reflecting on my dad, even the reason why he started IBSI in the first place, stemmed from this calling he felt after really seeing a lot of appropriating of Black civil rights struggle to come to as a cudgel against Israel. And he discovered in the library in the basement some newspaper clippings, copies of newspapers about this organization called Black Americans to Support Israel Committee, BASIC. And he saw that Bayard Rustin started this thing, and Lionel Hampton was a part of it. A. Philip Randolph was one of the leaders, and Rosa Parks was on it, Count Basie. And he said he started crying as he was reading it, which is significant. I mean, my dad doesn't cry. I don't know about your dad. I think our dads are kind of similar. They don't cry that often, but he said it was something that was so refreshing and relieving to him to see that, okay, there was, because he was like, I just knew that there had to be something. There was a movement, a Black led movement that stood with Jewish Americans and that stood up for Israel, right? A Black led, which was important. It was started by Black Americans, led by Black Americans. And from there, standing on the shoulders of those leaders, he founded IBSI. Go ahead.
So that's an interesting part of the story that I wasn't aware of. Do you know why, in addition to, yes, the need, what I'm hearing, for there to be leaders, Black leaders who are going to stand with Israel, but what did he identify with all the way back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, because that's when IBSI was started. So over 10 years ago, when the anti-Semitism wasn't at the peak that it is now, why do you think he felt so compelled to start IBSI, if you're familiar with that part of the story?
Yeah, um, so there's the reaction he had. He was angry, right? He was angry because it wasn't just Israel, but he just saw that the tactic of choice of people who will push these agendas that we feel are very destructive is to use the language of the Black struggle, right? So to take something that was very real for him, for his parents, for his grandparents, right? He has stories from his father of his father standing up to um, a white man who was berating his dad, right? Like his father was 10 years old, getting into the face of a white man and saying, "I don't like the way you're talking to my daddy." You know what I mean? And like, so my dad remembers these things, stories from his own mother, and so then seeing people who clearly don't care about any of that stuff, who probably even don't even like black people anyway, are
Mhm.
taking this
Mhm.
and saying that what they went through, what Jim Crow and all that stuff, we're going through our own Jim Crow. He's like, don't play with that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. He doesn't even appreciate when black people today say stuff like that. It's like, no, it's not what your grandparents went through. It's not, you're not as you're not, your struggles are not what your grandparents' struggles are. It's just not the same.
Mhm.
And so there was that, but I think much like Bayard Rustin, much like Dr. King, my dad responded to a call that was beyond him, because he was able to get a glimpse. He could see that where this was leading, right? It wasn't just what's happening currently, but where it was going.
Mhm.
Bayard Rustin said there wasn't global terrorism in the 70s, but Bayard Rustin said, if we don't call out the PLO, if we don't call out the terrorism happening on in Israel by the PLO, by Yasser Arafat, we're going to see it all over the world. And now we are there. So Bayard Rustin, there was not a grift for him. It wasn't a. It
Mhm.
was like he saw something and he was trying to prevent it. And I think that's where our CEO, where our father comes in, is that he didn't know exactly what would happen today, but he knew that this was going nowhere good, and we have to be a voice. Again, he said, we don't speak for the black community, but we are a voice in the black community that's
Mhm.
speaking out for truth. And so it was a call bigger than him, and it was a like seeing this harbinger, like you see these warning signs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I want to recognize and appreciate not only his leadership, but the moral clarity that he continues to showcase. And
yeah.
you've already alluded to it, the courage and speaking up, even in the face of unpopularity. For those that don't know the story, and it's not the time now to go into it, but does add a little bit of interest to this conversation. So I met my husband Joshua because of he wasn't my father-in-law, but he was this voice in America, this black voice, to your
Mm,
point, Joshua, that I just so admired coming from South Africa. And being one of the few black voices in South Africa, I mean, I was walking in the footsteps of my father, and to know that there were other voices outside of South Africa who were speaking truth to power, who were
mm,
calling out if I can use a colloquial word, like pimping black narratives and black history
yeah.
for their own good, and at the same time then demonizing Israel. And I was like, wow, who is this person? And like
Mm.
Googled and found him, and then he started to act in the role of a mentor. And yeah, so the rest is history. So Pastor James Washington, thank you for your leadership, for your moral clarity. Thank you for IBSI and for what it does. And to everybody that's watching and that's listening, I don't know, Josh, have you told them about the 100-day, excuse
I
me, the
did, but
100.
you can plug it again. Go ahead.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's an initiative, a fundraising drive that we're doing for the month of February. We cannot do what we do without money. Like, people are amazed and they're saying, wow, IBSI, we love the articles that we read. We love hearing your voices. Joshua, we love listening to you as you play, and your songs have got such meaning. And people are just so grateful for the work that IBSI does with the Black community, the pastors, and calling us to conversations where they know that there is going to be accuracy in information, and also accuracy and activism as well, right? It's not just an
Mhm.
organization that's like, give us your money and we're going to get rich over that. No, we're actually changing culture in the Black community as it pertains to Israel. And we cannot do this alone. There are resources that require funding. There are salaries that have to be paid. There's logistics that need to be taken care of. I mean, the very fact that you had the opportunity, together with Pastor Dumisani and Mama Val, who's our incredible COO, that takes money. So everybody that's listening, if you're appreciative of what IBSI does, if you want to continue to see the work that IBSI does, as well as see us grow, I mean, we're able to do a lot with a very little. Please do consider donating to IBSI.org/donate and help us reach our goal of $100,000 in 29 days.
Thank you, Olga. And I have to say this absolutely, and we're going to segue from this, but this whole it's been heavier and heavier on us, and we discussed this within IBSI and also within our families and everything. Is that doing the work when it's not sexy, doing the work
Mhm.
when it's not trendy.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that because that's something like when now it seems like over the past few months IBSI's been getting more attention. when IBSI was started, yeah, I mean, right? Why would you do that? No one's we didn't get funded for years starting from that, but but when you stand on principle, you
Mhm.
can't be you can't be compromised, right? Like that you focus, you can't be compromised. And so it with that, I also want to pivot. We're going to talk about my father-in-law, your father, um, MP Reverend Kenneth Meshoe, because as a lot of you who may be watching knows, a video went viral. We're going to share in just a moment of him addressing the ANC, and it's interesting seeing some of the comments. And that sometimes people say something, I'll go, he's been doing this for decades. This is not his first
Absolutely.
time
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
He's been saying this when it wasn't sexy. He's been saying this when everyone was making fun of him, when he was the only person, when he was just the Rev from who preaches in phosphorus. Like now, his words are, I think, are resonating even more, but he has not changed his message.
That's right.
Um, and so let's show the video, and then I want to hear your thoughts, Olga.
Sure.
I want to remind the ANC today that Isaiah 54:17 says that no weapon that is formed against Israel shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against her in judgment, she will condemn. ANC, you have gone too far, and your judgment.
As you conclude, honorable member.
When the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob said he will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse her, he was not joking, but he meant every word he said. You have invited the curse on yourself, and you are going to get it. Respond.
Olga, tell
Yeah.
us.
That's the rave. That's the rave. First of all, I want to say that is a clip that has gone viral, but that is literally the last, if I'm not mistaken, minute of his speech. I encourage everybody to go onto YouTube and to just Google it, find it, and watch the entire thing. The reason for that is that there are multiple, almost like truth bombs that Reverend Meshoe drops throughout his presentation. And one of the points in his response, and it was a response to the President's State of the Nation address, which President Ramaphosa, gave to the nation last week. So all of the different political parties have an opportunity to respond to what the president said, and Reverend Meshoe was responding to what the president said in relation to the ANC, the South African government's support for the state of quote unquote Palestine and the Palestinian people. Now, when the opposition really started to get rowdy and they started to heckle was when he raised the fact that if the ANC truly wanted, together with other players on the international stage, truly wanted to see an end to the war that is taking place between Hamas and Israel, there were three things that they could do that he was confident would end the war in approximately 30 days. And the first thing he said was go and get the hostages, demand that Hamas releases them and releases them unconditionally. Then they started to squawk. And then the second point that he raised was that Hamas then needed to destroy every single one of the tunnels that it has underneath Gaza, as well as those leading into Israel. He was like, destroy them, because we know that that is one of the ways in which Hamas has embedded itself in Gazan civilization, Olga, in Gaza civil areas, like the civil infrastructure. And that's why we see a lot of the casualties that we see that are not combatants. And he was like, destroy those tunnels. And then the third one is recognize Israel's right to exist within safe and secure borders. He raised the fact that Hamas has said time and time again that it doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist, that it wants to perpetuate on October 7 again and again and again. And he was like, how do you then have a two-state solution? How do you then see the creation of a Palestinian state that doesn't recognize and that doesn't want to live in peace with the neighbors? He was like, do those three things, international community as well as UANC, and then we'll start to see a change. And then that's when they really started to heckle and get all upset. And then that particular portion that we see where he quotes what the God of Israel says in the book of Isaiah in terms of no weapon formed against Israel will prosper. And he then calls out the fact that the ANC has gone too far in its propaganda, in literally, and we've spoken about this on this forum before, the ANC has actually now just made itself a mouthpiece, not only for Hamas, but for Iran itself. And he called that out. The last thing that I'll comment on this, and this is the real last ending of his presentation, was Genesis 12:3. many Christians, and even those that aren't Christians but that like to reflect on Genesis 12:3, will say, I'm going to bless Israel because God said that he's going to bless those who bless you. And we forget about the fact that Genesis 12:3, the second part of it, says, I will curse those who curse you. Right? So the fact that the ANC has taken this posture, has taken this stance against Israel and the Jewish people, is going to demand and has demanded a curse on the ANC. And that curse is going to come because our God does not lie.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And something that our CEO even said about this too, as we were watching together, is that, and we see this all the time, right? In the work that we do, the ANC, we've talked about this before, right? The ANC is buddy with Hamas. The ANC,
And has been for years.
Has been for years. They've been in bed with Hamas for years.
Yeah.
Hamas is Hamas is a government entity, essentially, but not over an official country. And so they employ other countries to do their bidding, which is why South Africa took Israel to the International Court of Justice. And so because of that, sometimes the public perception is that South Africans hate Israel, right? Why does South Africa hate Israel? Why is South Africa? It always makes me cringe. It's not South Africa, right? It's a party. There are a couple other parties as well. But South Africa, just like much of the continent, remains very, very, very Zionist in a very biblical sense. There's not an agreement. There's not a connection there. Years ago, I talked with Johnny Ye about this, even in Ghana. He was talking about often you see that the leadership doesn't reflect the people because they're getting payouts from other people. And that's why you have that disconnect. But to a greater degree, I think, and we were talking about this, we should be more concerned about how in the US, what are we doing? If at least South Africa has someone like Rev to stand up in Parliament, and it's something our CEO told us the other day. Who in the US is doing this? Where at least, you know what? At least the ANC is being very upfront and saying that we hate Israel.
Yeah.
What are we doing in the US? We're saying, I'm Israel high, I'm Israel high. We stand with you, Israel. And then we send millions, hundreds of millions more dollars to the PA, who funnels that money to Hamas, who engages in pay for slay. And then we continue to give money to Israel for the Iron Dome and all that stuff. So then we're funding both sides. We're funding Israel's enemies, and we're being duplicitous. Which one is worse? Would you want to have an enemy who says, I hate you and I don't like you, I don't want your best interest? Or do you want someone who says, no, I stand with you, and then they fund someone who's trying to kill you? That's duplicitous. And if we think that South Africa is dwindling, then we are so deep into this cesspool. It's almost like there's no coming back for us if that's really how we feel. Why don't you come in on that, Olga?
Well, look, I'm not an American citizen, so I'll allow you to criticize your government. But I do want to say that it's very interesting to observe how there does seem to be this double standard. Not even does seem to be, there is this double standard. On the one hand, it's like, yes, we are Israel's strongest and most loyal supporter. And then turn around, it's like, here, let's just release all of these funds to Iran. And we know that Iran is not only just funding Hamas and the war that's taking place in Israel, they're funding terrorism across the world. So it's like, okay, hold up, America, like, I'm confused, like, on which side are you on, right? So, to your point, and I agree. Like, I rather know the enemy that I'm facing and it's in my face and they're telling me, like, we hate you and this is how we're coming for you and then I know how to safeguard myself. And then I also know how to tell people about this particular relationship, right? And I don't look like a fool. I don't look like an idiot. Then to have a friend that's like, I'm your friend and I'm doing things that aren't in my best interest, and not only just not in my best interest, but that's also putting my civilian population at risk. So I'll say this, may God have mercy on South Africa, because that judgment is going to come, and may God have mercy as well on the United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
if I can pivot a little bit and also highlight something that was quite particular. There's a picture that went around also on social media. I'm not sure if everybody saw it, but the president, together with his deputy, Mr. Wayne Thring, were they were together wearing a tie that had the Star of David on, and it had the stripes that were symbolic
Yes.
of the Israeli flag. And I thought that was quite profound, like them taking a physical stand. We've seen that the ANC and members of the ANC have been arriving with their kafirs and showcasing their solidarity with with Gazans and with the Palestinians. And here they were saying, okay, we're going to show you one as well. And I thought that was great.
No, it's fantastic. And again, it further showcases it. It really is, Reverend Meshoe's voice. It does represent millions of South Africans across the country.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, something that's come to mind is talking about millions of South Africa. There is actually a call for prayer that's been put out, and it's been put out over the last several weeks in South Africa, where Christians are coming together to pray and to repent because they recognize that this is going to bring judgment upon the nation of South Africa, and they're pleading for God's mercy for those that are standing in the gap and saying, Lord, see us, remember us. We've been the ones that have been standing up and speaking on behalf of your people. So that particular prayer meeting, which is more reflection of the stance of the ordinary South African, is taking place this coming Sunday. I want to challenge any South African that's listening to this that yes, we need to pray. Yes, we need to get on our knees and cry out unto God in repentance and cry out to God for his mercy. And when we get up, we need to do something practical, right? We need to showcase our love and our support for Israel as well as Jewish people. We need to do something with our hands, not only in relation to physically supporting, standing up, speaking out on social media, speaking truth to power, correcting falsehoods that are put out there, but also addressing in our national affairs those that are coming against Israel, including the African National Congress.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Olga. And it is incumbent upon us now. I didn't know that was going on tonight. I thank you for sharing that, because that does, to me, those are signs of, okay, well, I mean, we've been saying this, the continent is at a tipping point. There are a lot of elections happening in this time frame. Liberia just had one, they have new leadership, and we're watching to see what happens, right? There is a lot of shifting, a lot of moving. And depending on how this goes, we could see a very different world. Our children could see a very different world when they're adults, than we are, and that it's potentially a very beautiful thing. No, so I want to just, so in the same way you said with my father, I want to say, hats off to your dad, hats off to Rev, because again, when he started the ACDP. When he was helping draft the Constitution after apartheid, when he stood up for truth and for righteousness, it wasn't, he was just a pastor from over there, right? It wasn't something, there wasn't social media when he started doing this. There wasn't shares and likes and everything, but he did what he believed was best for the country, and he continues to do that. And like I said, the only difference between then and now is this just happened to go viral, but this has been Rev. This has been Rev from the beginning. So, to people who have been monitoring this, take note. There's much more that Africa has in store. And as the young ones come up, when I say young, I mean like around our age, right? As young South Africans, young Africans, and younger are getting older, they're also seeing this shift. And there are conversations happening across the continent even, about what that change looks like. And so we're praying for a strong Africa that can be real partners with Israel, and do great things. So amazing. Well, we need to also talk about this. And before we talk about this next thing, I want to preface this by saying what we've been seeing since October 7th, but even in 2021, when Israel was at war with Hamas, is this, and this is why I believe, and I'm going to make a very spiritual statement, is that Jew hatred really is an evil spirit. Because you see on the far left, people say that they cloak it in social justice and humanitarianism and all this stuff. And they say, therefore, and they say all these lies about Israel, right? And they act like they just want justice. And then on the far right, you have a more, it's dishonesty as well, but you have a more blatant, just kind of bold. It's almost like a boldness, but it's not a holy boldness. It's really stupidity. And so what we've been seeing We address those things as we can. We've been tracking this, we've been writing about this and all that stuff, but we're saying something because this has been a big voice, and it needs to be addressed. But we're gonna talk about Candace Owens for a minute, because yes, there's been such a dishonesty, and we're not even going to really preface this. I'm just going to say it's been such a dishonesty coming from her, and one of the things that it's been very, very unfortunate, and just the evilness of it is when the truth gets played with, right? It's when the truth gets played with. And so I didn't watch this. Olga, you did. I just refused because I can't anymore. But even back when, right at the beginning, after October 7th, you can track things based on how people are, what they say and what they don't say. So Candace didn't say anything after October 7th. Well, no, okay, you don't have to. Fine. There's other stuff going on. You talk about other things. Fine. You don't do geopolitics. You deal with Black America issues and societal. Fine. Cool. I mean, no, fine. Don't say anything. But then when she did speak up was when she thought that Israel bombed a church in Gaza. And then Charlie Kirk also retweeted, "Oh, Christians are suffering." Oh, so now you want to talk about Christian suffering? There's millions of Christians that suffer across the North Africa, the Middle East, and in China and all. I've never heard nary one thing from them about that. But we got Christians need to stand up and speak out on the. And then when it came out that, well, no, the church is still standing. Nothing. Quiet again. No apology. No. Oh, I'm my bad, guys. I'm sorry. Nothing. That's how it started. That's when we were like, okay, this is not good. And then go ahead, Olga. Why don't you go and share what you've been seeing as well?
My memory somehow wants to tell me that actually IBSI's called out Candace even before October 7.
Yeah. No, we did. It was we called her out way back when she was defending Kanye. That was the whole lie that was told about how what JP Morgan or something.
Yeah.
They kicked them out because they're Jewish, and that didn't happen. Yeah.
And it's important to note, again, because I want to impress upon us as a reminder, but also everybody listening, that IBSI didn't just come into the spotlight come October 7, right? There has been a consistency in the work that we do. And I emphasize that because I've also seen how a lot of people, particularly young people, will look to different voices, look to them for information, look to them as role models. And then when they do something that is lacking of integrity, then they get upset and they're like, okay, but we depended on you. And then the encouragement that we then have to give them is to say, look for people that are consistent in the good times and the bad times, that they are just consistent because they know that it's the truth. All right. So that having been said, I have not really paid attention to Candace Owens. One, it's just been busy. I've been very busy. And then two, in the most respectful way, it's almost like been this white noise in the back of my head. I'm just like, okay. But then I saw a clip last week go viral and I was like, okay, now I have to pay attention. So I watched a portion of her podcast, the portion where she addresses what happened during the Super Bowl. And I was like, don't like this. This is tough, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I don't like to, particularly if it's a Black woman, like, this whole public fray. I will call out truth where truth needs to be called out and call out lies where lies needs to be called out. But then I just don't want to, anyway, that's just a personal thing. I don't want to get into a tit for tat. I think that was on the Monday. And then the Tuesday, there was an uproar, and I'll go into what that was. On the Tuesday, she addresses the uproar in relation to the Monday. And then I was like, okay, no, sweetheart, like, no, stop, because she started to do things, including putting on this, I'm a Christian woman and I'm a mother. And as a mother, I have to I have my heart bleeds for the Palestinian children. And I was like, first of all, I have not heard you. Maybe I'm mistaken. And Joshua, you're on Twitter more than I am. Like, maybe you can tell me if she has called out Hamas, who continues to use, not only in this war, but have been doing so for decades, uses children as human shields. I've not heard her say anything about UNRWA, right? The deep evil, entrenched evil of UNRWA that is indoctrinating these kids to hate Israel. There was a speaker at the Club Z conference at the beginning of January. He's former Palestinian, and he speaks about how he, in his upbringing in Gaza schools, when they did math, this was his math lesson. If you have 5 Jews and you kill 3 Jews, how many Jews are there left to kill? That was math. I have not heard Candace Owens call that out. So then when she puts on this whole Christian thing, never mind the fact also that we have got tens of thousands of Christians that are being murdered on the African continent today, and it's been going on for decades. Not a peep, not a word. So don't tell me that you're concerned about Christians and their suffering and children and their suffering. Where is your voice in relation to Sudan and what's taking place in Sudan with the children as well? So then I got hot. All right. What did she say? In summary, she called out the fact that during the Super Bowl, there were ads for different things, including ads calling attention to the fact that we have these hostages that are still there. Over 130 hostages are still in captive in Gaza. And there was more than one ad. I know that one ad was released by a private foundation, the Kraft Foundation, and then there was one ad, she said two, I'm not sure, that was released by the State of Israel. Now, whether one agrees or disagrees with the State of Israel putting out an ad on national TV in America, I'm like, anyway, right? Fine. It happened. So she comments about this, that this particular ad or these ads were there as propaganda. They were there to pull at the heartstrings of people. What has this got to do with America? Why do Americans need to be calling up their representatives to draw attention to this? Again, what does this have to do with America? I was like, what do you mean? What does this have to do with America? Like, it would take somebody that is living under a rock, with all due respect, not to recognize that this has got a lot to do with America. First of all, there are American nationals that are still being held in Gaza today. There's around 6 or maybe even up to a number of 10. So we're not going to care. All right. And then also just generally hostages. We shouldn't care about the fact that there's hostages there. Like, are you being serious? We shouldn't care about the fact that it is part of America's influence as well as America's money that not only has caused this, but could very well release or rather call the release of these hostages. I was like, hold up. I mean, there are so many reasons that she has access to if she would just take off her blindfold in relation to her hate for Israel. The answers are there. I was like, okay, so this has got nothing to do with America. We're wasting time in relation to the representatives. In fact, Tim Scott, as well as another senator, I can't remember his name, they've actually put forward a resolution applying pressure on President Biden, saying it is within the power of the President of the United States to ensure that these hostages are released, and not only the American hostages, but all of the hostages. All right, so these senators know that there's some stuff that America has to do, but Candace is like, this has got nothing to do with America. So she then continues to comment, and then as part of a commentary, she's like, oh, and by the way, Bibi Netanyahu just bombed a refugee camp.
Right.
And I was like, okay, check. So these, over the weekend, there were 2 hostages that were rescued of Argentinian nationality, okay? So they were rescued from Rafah, which is a city down in the south of Gaza, considered a refugee camp. The IDF had to go in. They did the very best that they could. Hamas has embedded itself, its infrastructure, in homes of Palestinian people. These hostages were found in homes of Palestinian people. So in a war, unfortunately, if your enemy is hiding behind civilian infrastructure, unfortunately, civilians are going to be hurt. Where has her voice been with regards to Hamas? Stop using them as human shields. Hamas, come out and stop being the cowards that you are, hiding behind non-combat. Let's fight, right?
Right.
We're in a war. Fight and fight fair. Where's her voice? Nowhere. But then she uses those words, just bombed a refugee camp. I was like, you are dishonest. You are lying. You are fueling the flames of hatred. You on your platform. And then when there's an outcry, she comes back the next day and says, I was taken out of context. Nuh-uh. I watched those entire things. She was not taken out of context, at least from what I saw. She was not taken out of context. But then she starts to gaslight again. Oh no, people just want to like showcase power, and it's only some of the Jews. I was like, it's not just about the Jews. I'm a Zionist, and I care about what's going on. I'm a humanitarian, and I care about what's going on. And also, I'm a Christian, and I'm a mother, and I'm a Black woman, right? So like don't. Anyway, so I'd say a lot more, but it's just like stop. Your hate is coming out of almost like every one of your pores now. And particularly stop it with the Christian narrative. I'm a Christian, and so because of that, I have a heart, I have whatever. Are you a Christian then that's going to, like the prophet Isaiah said, rebuke the oppressor? Haven't heard you rebuke the oppressor.
And you would think, and this is the thing that always gets me, you would think that someone who prided herself on, well, she kind of claimed herself as to be the only person, I exposed Black Lives Matter. for all of its evil doings. And not okay, so forget everyone else, forget us and everyone else who's been literally. There's been a lot of people who've been talking about Black Lives Matter shady dealings since 2013, right?
Mhm.
So you know how to do deeper research
Yep.
and see the game, and you are able to articulate the game being played in the States. You can say Cori Bush, it says defund the police, but she got
Yep.
private security. So you know how that game
Yep.
works.
Mhm.
Yet somehow you can't see that same thing happening in Gaza when Hamas says that they, they just when Hamas acts like they're freedom fighters, but then they put their own people in harm's way. You don't see that whole. You don't see that they started a war but they left all the civilians there. They didn't evacuate anyone. Like they don't. There's
I
no
mean,
way
she
you
doesn't
can't
see
see
what's
that.
happening on the streets in broad daylight when people screaming intifada and then harming American civilians who just happen to be Jews in this country, and it's got nothing to do with America. Like, are you being serious?
Yeah.
And to your point, like she has not only the I would hope, but sometimes I'm in doubt, hope that she has the intelligence to be able to do research. She has access. Like she literally could call up the phone to some of the most influential as well as knowledgeable, right? Knowledgeable people and be like, okay, I'm confused. I'm really unstuck. Help me understand this. Help me understand how the IDF works. Help me understand this terrorist tunnel system that I'm hearing about. Help me understand all this if she wanted to, but she's dishonest.
Yeah.
She's dishonest and she's lazy and
And the other thing is, and this was I forgot too, this is the other red flag for me. So she said, I'm going to invite two people on my show separately on either sides of this issue so we can discuss this. So she invites on the anti-Israel side Norman Finkelstein. Now, Norman Finkelstein for me in my Israel journey was the first like seemingly very, very intelligent anti-Israel person I had encountered, right? In my journey. It was like 2010 when I first saw a speech from him and I was like, wow, like it threw me for a loop. I had to really, that's when I started doing deeper research because of people like Norman Finkelstein. So she brings this very eloquent, like I said, very academic person up here to talk about da 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 da. I didn't watch the whole thing because I've seen his speeches before. Okay, fine. So you brought in an expert level person on that side. Then on the pro-Israel side, now, and I'm not dogging this guy because he actually did a pretty good job, but she brings on this comedian, musician, Jewish guy, right? I can't remember his name, but he was great. There was a clip that went viral of him calling her out because she was saying, the Arab Quarter, they can't go anywhere else, and he was like, no. He's like, in New Orleans, you have the French Quarter. It's just areas where that culture does their thing, but they can go anywhere. And she still repeated the stupid talking point of, oh, they can't go anywhere else. Now he still did a great job. So again, he was amazing. But it showcased her dishonesty because, like you said, she has access. She used to work at PragerU. She knows just from Dennis Prager alone, she could have reached out to any kind of Israeli. She works at the Daily Wire through Ben Shapiro. There's tons of Israelis that all that stuff. Who did she get? She got Norman Finkelstein and then this comedian on the pro-Israel side. That's not Candace. That's not honest. That's not an honest discussion of what's going on.
She also touts the fact that she went to the opening of the American embassy in Jerusalem. Okay, sweetheart, yay. Yeah. Okay, and
right.
She's also got access to all of those people that were there. I'm sorry.
Diplomats. You got a former ambassador. You really anyone. You could have gone anybody. And again, I'll say it again because I don't want people to think that guy he held his own. So I like props to him. But
correct.
But
he's not an expert.
Right.
He didn't put himself as an expert on the topic.
He didn't put himself as an expert. I wouldn't even feel 100% comfortable going toe-to-toe with Norman. I would say, let's get our CEO in on this, right? That would be like asking like Norman Finkelstein and then, and like asking me. It's like, yeah, I do know a lot and I can speak to a lot of things, but this is a different weight division. It's just a different weight class. And Norman he's an older man. He's been doing this for decades. Yeah, that's dishonest. And so someone said, who's funding her? I mean, I don't know what that to be honest, and I'm being very honest, the same way that she did this investigative research into BLM and all that stuff, someone needs to research that. But what I feel is that for whatever her own reasons are, she's choosing to be like this.
Yeah.
For whatever her reasons are, I believe that Candace is choosing to be a Jew hater and choosing to be an Israel hater because in the past, she's brought up a lot of things that we agree with. The stuff that she has said about BLM is absolutely true. The documentary that she was a part of is on point. The stuff like has always, so there've been things that she has been saying that people were dogging her for that we're like, no, she's right. She knows how to dig. So the fact that she's even in real time, when that comedian said, no, the Arab quarter is not, they're not confined to the Arab quarter. They can go anywhere they want to. It's just a quarter. This is Jewish quarter, is an Armenian quarter. She then still said, yeah, I just think it's weird that, there's a place where Arabs can't, in Israel, where Arabs
And
can't
she
go
likened
anywhere.
it to segregation.
And it's like segregation. I went, okay, but he literally, with his mouth to your ears, he said, that is not true. And here's why. And you ignored it. She's choosing this for whatever her reasons are. She is choosing this. And so we are going to continue to call her out because of our massive platform. And because she claims to be someone who stands on truth and principle and righteousness as a Christian woman, and that's an affront to, like you said, that's an affront to me as a Christian.
That's right.
That's an affront to all the other identities that you like hide behind to spout your stuff. That's an affront, and we will call you out.
That's right.
And you know what? Invite one of us onto your show so we can talk about it further. Because that, honestly,
do you think she'd want to listen? I mean, with all due respect to both you and I, Joshua, like, she literally has access to people that have been in this game and who are more knowledgeable than us. Like, we know our stuff, and there's people out there who know a lot. Like, why? Who are we when she has those voices that she could listen to?
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, like I said, which is why, I mean, just based on what she did and how she did the whole two sides of the argument thing, I don't know. I don't think she would have someone like us on there because she clearly has an agenda. I mean, it's the same thing you see sometimes on news stations where, someone trying to prove a point. So they bring the most fringe, crazy person onto their show to say, see, and they might be right still about their position being off, but it wasn't a debate. You just brought someone who was kind of wacky so people can, so it's the same thing. She's trying to act like she's the arbiter of all this stuff and standing on the Bible and like I said, saying things she never really said. She's never really talked about Christians suffering. She's never really talked about what's happening in it. No, but now she cares about Christians and Christians. So yeah. So
I mean, just on this Christian point again, because it's important to note the fact that if we are saying that we are Christians and we truly care about the suffering of the innocent Palestinians, there are many Palestinians that are not innocent, and there are many Palestinians who are innocent. Why is everybody else also who might be underneath the same umbrella as her not calling out the root cause of the suffering of these Palestinian people? They've been suffering for years. Right? Freedom of speech. Talk to me about that. Women's rights. Talk to me about that. I mean, there are so many things going on and not going on as well, not only in Gaza, but also in Judea, Samaria, quote unquote, the West Bank, where the Palestinian Authority is in power. When was the last time they had elections? So if you really say that you care about them, and if you really say that you are about their liberation and their freedom and an opportunity for them to really have a good life, then what are you doing about it? You're gaslighting and you're lying.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to what I said in the beginning. It's the same. So this is the duplicitousness, right? The duplicity, it's when you're being dishonest. That word, the two-faced. You're being two-faced. It's the same. It's that same two-facedness that says, and I'm working on something now in IBSI Substack. We want a ceasefire. But then on the other hand, you say, you don't get to choose how we resist. Ceasefire, but 75 years of oppression. And it's like, no, you can't do both. If you're saying we want a ceasefire, then you want peace. Okay, let's talk about how we can actually achieve. Like Rev did. This is how we get there. If you say you don't get to choose how we resist, then you want war. You're saying we're gonna fight. Okay, then. Oh, right. Well, then let's fight. I'm glad you said that. Let's go. You can't say you can't choose how we resist, and then when I roll up my sleeves, go, oh no, stop. No, can't do that. You can't do that. And that's what we're seeing all across, whether it's left or the right. It's this clear, like I said, two-faced behavior that some people don't see at all, and some people know exactly what they're doing, and they choose to continue to do this. Someone just commented and said, I'm a professor, and that's what's happening on college campuses. They invite only certain people to represent pros or stands because they know they won't stand up to true scrutiny. Exactly. And again, it's not a slight on those people. It's just, everyone has really strong people and weaker people. So they'll get someone who maybe they're not an expert, or someone who maybe they're very smart, but being smart and knowing how to debate are two different things. I'm not the best debater, right? I have all these things, and I'm great at discussions and talking to people, but being quick and doing things like that in real time, that's something that you're a much better debater than I am. So if someone invited one of us from IBSI to do a debate, I would recommend you. I'd recommend our CEO. But it would be like the college saying, no, we only want these 4 people, and all 4 of those people are people who don't debate very well, because we want to frame it in a certain way. Or we're going to have a panel, 2 pro-Israel, 2 anti, but of the 2, one of them is kind of inflammatory and is going to distract everyone and say like the worst things, and then the other one is going to have to try and debate, but also kind of run cover for the person because they're doing too much. It's a tactic. It's a tactic. And it's a tactic that's used very well. Okay, I don't know how we got here, but I didn't mean to get to that exactly. We have just a few minutes left, and I do want to turn attention to this. Olga and I, we've been co-authors on a few different books now, which has been fantastic. But we've had the privilege and honor of co-authoring an incredible, amazing book called Israel the Miracle. It is, I mean, there's how many authors are on this book? 75. That's right, because of Israel's 75th. So we were asked to do this on Israel's 75th birthday. There was so much going on last year, but we were able to put our essays together, and we looked, and there's just so many. We're honored to be a part of this throng of just high caliber people, authors and speakers and leaders in their own right. Do we have that picture? If we can put that up there, Maria. Israel the Miracle, we have some copies now. So as we're traveling, we'll be bringing some with us. If you want to purchase one, we'll have them on us. We only have a few, but we'll get some more soon. Olga, tell them a little bit more about the book.
So this book was commissioned by the Genesis 123 Foundation, which is based in Israel, and the head of the Genesis 123 Foundation.
Show them the cover, Olga.
Oh, show them the cover.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a picture. Okay, I have one here. Can you see that?
Oh, it's beautiful.
I mean, how beautiful. So it's a very heavy, durable, beautifully put together coffee table book. I mean, just like even the pictures themselves are incredible. Yeah. So he felt that he being Jonathan Feldstein, he's the head of the Genesis 123 Foundation, and we'll share the link if people want to check it out more. It literally is israelthemiracle.com. He felt that it was important for the world and Jewish people to see and understand the love that Christians have for Israel and for the Jewish people. And so he commissioned 75 authors to put together various articles. I mean, when you and I, Joshua, went through who the authors of this book were, because like you said, we had a lot going on last year when we were asked to do this. I mean, there were people like Dr. Pat Robinson. You may or may not like him, but with regards to the support for Israel, we now have CBN, which has got incredible programming in relation to Israel. So he's one of the authors, even though he's now gone to be at the Lord. Dr. Jürgen Büchler, who is the, I don't know if he's the founder, but he's definitely the head and the CEO of the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. They do incredible work across the world. There's Dr. Ben Carson. There's Pastor Terry Copeland Pearson. I mean, Anne Graham Lotz, who's the daughter of the late Billy Graham. There is also incredible people from Africa, Pastor Adeboye. There is the Chief Justice, Mkhweng. I mean, like, we just go on in this and we're like, okay. So, I mean, even friends of Pastor Jimmy Sunday Washington and the Washington family from, I saw the name, Pastor Scott Thomas, as well as Bishop Robert Stearns. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is incredible. So the articles cover different topics, but they are all based from how various Christians have experienced Israel, have experienced Jewish people, the history of Israel, the history of the relationship between Christians and the state, as well as the incredible people of the land. So yes, it is a wonderful, wonderful book. I encourage anybody and everybody, if you can, to get this. It's called Israel the Miracle. It's available on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. If not, the website, once again, israelthemiracle.com. Yeah, you'll definitely be inspired.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So it's a real honor. We hope, and someone just commented, hopefully we'll come to Detroit. So actually one of our IBSI ambassadors is based there in that area, but also we won't be that close, but we won't be super far. In a couple weeks, we'll be in Chicago for Voices for Israel. It's a concert. There's a few speakers. Olga's one of our speakers. Our CEO is one of our speakers. Lots of music. There's lots of different cantors from around the area who are performing, but we're also doing a joint performance One of my professions is I'm a composer, and I wrote an a cappella choral piece that's going to be performed by the cantors and myself and my sisters, and I think maybe even Olga as well. All of us together. It's going to be. It's just a great night for music. So if Detroit, I know it's a couple hours drive, but it's definitely worth the trip to come out and see us. There'll be lots of music. We'll be there. We'll be there for I think just a little bit over a day. So we'll be visiting Pastor Corey Brooks's church on Sunday morning and having that event that evening. So so if you're in Detroit, like I said, we don't have something in Detroit yet, but we're not far from you. If you want to come out and see us there, that's March the 3rd.
March the 3rd. There is a quick way, though, to get to Detroit. And that is if somebody wants to invite IBSI to come to Detroit and we have an event there. That's definitely a quick fix.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So reach out to IBSI. You can go to ibsi.org/dates to see our events, or you can contact us on our website. And let's set up something. We would love to come out, speak, do some music and speaking, some other demonstrations. We enjoy it a lot, and being able to connect. And again, like I said in the beginning, in Harlem, we met. There were Black Americans, non-Jewish. There were Black Americans that came out that said, "We've been following you guys for a few months now." Like I said, I'm introduce a couple of them to you in the coming months. But the journeys that they've been on, and how IBSI has been a big part of their journey, and we didn't even know until we met them on Saturday. IBSI was a big part of their journey, and so they wanted to come and be at the event and talk to us in person and let us know. And so we'll be doing more work with them. One of them happens to work at Columbia University, which is fantastic. I mean, so it's a beautiful thing. And again, when you do the work, I guarantee you, in the beginning, it's not sexy. What's sexy about watching sheep? What's sexy about being a janitor? Nothing. But you do it diligently, and you will be recognized for it. But beyond the recognition, it'll lead you to your ultimate destiny, right? What you're supposed to be doing, and that's what we want. We want to be walking in our purpose, not elevating our brand, right? That might be a part of what we're doing, but that can't be our goal.
Yeah.
And so
it's in the watching the sheep and being the janitor, the character's developed.
Yes.
Integrity is developed, so that when you actually then do come to the forefront and you're called out, or you're challenged and you're tempted to be compromised, you've developed that character and you won't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, it is 9:03 Eastern time, so we've gone a little bit over time, but thank you guys for showing up. We're here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Let your friends know, let your neighbors know. Again, subscribe to our Substack, become a paid subscriber, follow us on social media. Give right now as you're listening. If you're still watching this, go to ibsi.org and give to our 100K in 29 days campaign. We are at the end of day 19. We're just over a quarter of the way there, and we need your help to get all the way. Ladies and gentlemen, the stories that we've shared with you, we have many more, and we will have many more as we continue with these events and these engagements, but we cannot do these things without you. So please help us to get to our goal of $100,000. We are chugging along, and we very much appreciate it. Olga, thank you so much for being here with us today. Again, always appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I might make this a regular. Come hang out with you.
Please do. Please do. I would very much like that. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you. You guys have a great rest of your week. And oh, thank you, sir. Jeff, I see Jeff Lichtenstein's comment here. Yes, sir. We'll continue to do as best as we can. We hope to meet you in person soon. That's all for tonight, folks. You guys have a great rest of your week. You take care.
Good night.